Hi, guys. 9/11, JGH, 1811. Hey, neighbor. Tony, good to see you. Jimmy, Tuna, Kevin, Dartmouth Alpha, Damon, boy, Goldfinger. Hi, guys. Henry, good to see you all. Okie doke. Here's what I want to talk about. Now, I know a lot of you, in fact, perhaps most of you, have had it. My mouth, I look like a 2-year-old. Um, hey, Fernie, Dominic, good to see you. Brian L, good to see you too. Yama, man, how are you doing? Oh boy. Okie doke. Let me see if I can sort of start off here with what I got all excited about. Hang on a second. I'm gonna go get a better picture of what I have in mind. Here we are. Okie doke. Let me bring something up and I'll tell you why. Hi, Trustin. Good morning to you. Okay, this watch is a Breguet. A while back, a few years ago, when they first came out with the Breguet Tradition, I thought this is great. This is a watch I really like. However, then I found out that they put a silicone hairspring in it, and I was just like, "Come on, you guys! This is tradition, and certain things go along with tradition, and silicone isn't one of them." Apparently, somebody heard me because now, um, in the in the what's called the traditional Seconde retrograde and a couple other ones, they put in uh, the what's called the Breguet Navicron. Here's a movement. It's called the movement 505 SR. And this little part right here, see if it blows up. Yeah. You can see they have a very interesting looking regulator, but there's a little pointy part of it right here, right at the tip of it. And then it has sort of a loop out here, and then it goes up to this where they have a couple screws, and I'm not sure how that works because it's going to have to go left and right, but I'm not sure how. But the Navicron hairspring. Now, why get excited about a Navicron hairspring? Let me explain why. For those of you who have been around for a while, or even not that long, Navicron is a hairspring that was used in all kinds of watches. It was owned by ETA, that whole menagerie, Swatch. So it wasn't the best one, okay? And so you have other ones like Karl Haas in Germany, or my favorite, the Straumann hairspring that came out of Precision Engineering, H. Moser, and some other ones. And then in 2019, I guess they didn't make a big deal about it because that same year they were pushing silicone hairsprings. So they came out with a really good hairspring. It's just sort of the new Navicron one. But then they were putting the silicon blankety blank into their hairsprings. And I was, crying bloody murder as nobody would notice. Apparently they did. Myself, not I wasn't alone in this. There are a lot of I think the entire AHCI was like, come on, you guys. So now they have the tradition, the subscription watch, the one with the one hand that was the Brigade's uh, early subscription watch, not prescription. Okay, so uh, does that mean a great thing? In a way, it does. I think probably the great majority, I don't know what it is. I don't have any data on this. I don't think they do either. Is that exactly what percent of watch buyers, of luxury watch buyers, could all they want is a watch that works. And if they pay a lot of money for it, they expect it to be accurate. And one way to keep that accuracy up is to put silicone hairsprings in because they don't do this, they don't do that, and they have all kinds of advantages. On the other hand, for those of us, and I include, I'm sure, some of you and all the AHCI, so they don't want that stuff. They want something at least they can build a regulator as part of the system that they have for their watch. And so if something starts going buggy, they can adjust it one way or the other. They can adjust the beat, they can adjust the frequency. So um, it appears, and back to the metal, I mean, from metalloids like silicon and arsenic, some other some other things, maybe they're saying, okay, look, for traditional kinds of things and for people who are watch collectors and serious about horology, maybe we ought to let them use our Navicron. And Navicron is not a bad, I mean, it's a very good, the 2019 one is actually very good. Okay, that's that. That's what I wanted to say to start off. What do you guys think about it, or anything else you want to talk about? Hi, Eric. You ever get the notion to buy a watch and have the silicone hairspring replaced at a place like Artisans de Genève? Boy, I don't know. That's a good question, Eric. That would be something. Um, right now, was those of us involved with LaRique, we're pretty busy right now, and so we don't have to worry about replacing the hairsprings we have because we have Strawman hairsprings, and replacing them is, as they say, not a problem, not an issue. Hey, Tuna. Yeah, I agree. I've always liked that watch, and it was like a stab in the back when they started putting silicone. I said, "Come on, you guys!" One of the things, even the shape, that weird shape of the rotor weight, it looks sort of like sort of an old-fashioned spear tip or something, sort of a dull spear tip. 911. Yeah, yeah, 911. I agree. They have, um, it's something. It's an option, okay? So if somebody wants a watch, they're gonna buy one luxury watch and they're gonna use it all the time, and they could care less about collecting watches. Okay, so what about a hairspring, silicone hairsprings? You could have a hamster and a running wheel. They wouldn't care. They just want to have a watch. So, I mean, that that works all the time. They go out and they get their Rolex or they get a Omega or one of the um, watches that even Rolex is now sort of going over toward that. But I think that even companies like Rolex needs to have have um, some options. Okay, it'd be nice if they're going to have sort of traditional Rolex with a sort of a cool regulator or something like that. like the swan neck regulator. Come on, that's a cool one. I wonder. I think also too, since Swatch also owns Glashütte Original, the panel reserve or panel inverse, I mean, that has that dual regulators. That is a beautiful one. Well, yeah, they have one with the one with 10 hertz. Alex, is that is one they wanted to set up. Is that I don't know, the one with 10 hertz? I thought that was a chronograph, and they wanted 10 hertz so they could have 1/10 of a second. But I could be wrong about that. The one that oops, the one that I was looking at, let me see if I can find the one I was looking at is called the Tradition Seconde Retrograde 7035. They're not in all of them, they're just in some of them. And another one that they're in is, hang on, let me see here. Uh, Heritage. Let me see. What to me the real irony is, classic, here it is. Now here's another one that also has the Navicron hairspring. Let me see. This one. Uh, this is a Classique subscription 2025. They made a big deal about this. One of the problems, not only with this one, but with the other ones, is that they're all over $50,000. That's crazy. I mean, like, um, you know, I like a nice simple watch. I've never been a big fan of single handers. Um, and this is certainly what Breguet had, very, very close to Breguet, his original model. And let's see if they got a picture of and then here's the movement. Notice that in the movement, they have this same L-shaped thing with this little loop. And then here's your pointer for your going either R for retard, slower, or A for advance or faster. And but they don't have it marked up. They just have the little pointer right here. You can barely see it. But that's another one. You see, they have Brigade Navicron, and as opposed, they use words like silicilium or something else is to, I think, in part to say, well, it's not silicon, it's it's silly putty. What it is, this movement's called the VS00. That's another thing. Both of these are 3 hertz. Okay, 21,600 semi oscillations per hour. So they're going to me is that, hey, this is making watch collection a little more fun, okay, than something you put on your wrist and you never think about it again. Okay. You know what I'd like to see 9/11? Hi, hater. What I'd really like to see these guys do is have something more affordable, something under $5,000. They got the Navicron hairspring. It wouldn't kill them. They could put that on there. They could put in a simple regulator. You know, just call it the collector's edition for people like us. Because I do like Breguet as so traditionally. I've been, in fact, I've been thinking of getting one from, I think it's from the 80s, one of the early ones that Daniel Roth did when the Chomet brothers were bringing back Breguet from near oblivion back to good stuff. Whatever happened to Callus's escapement? You know, Hater, that's another one that is something that's got the reek written all over it. That if we could make a deal with Vincent Calabrese and Agenor, you know, because the only Calcis that actually works was done with a Solita movement. Well, if you can do it with a Solita movement, you can do it with, you know, hamster on a running wheel. It would be so with a Larique building the movement around the Calcis. What a watch that would be. I'm 100% in agreement with you. Besides, maybe we could talk him into it. It turns out that Vincent Calabrese and I are exactly the same age. Hi, Jimmy. I was looking at Blank Pond 50 Fathoms, and it's tricky finding one pre-silicon, pre-2017, I believe. Yeah, I don't know what they're doing with that. Now, there's there are all kinds of possibilities with out there, and I think this last video I did was on sort of what I call neo vintage, and this is from like the first decade of the 21st century, from 2000 to 2009. And a whole lot of stuff was going on at that time. FP Jorn is just starting his company. THA, a bunch of guys are doing that, and Vianney Halter. There was a whole lot of, a lot of exciting things seemed to be going on. And then as they became more successful, I think the GPHG got mad at FP Jordan because he was winning so many awards. Same thing was true with Langa Unsunda. These guys were winning everything, and I think the Swiss are a little been out of shape about it. Hey, Four Doggy, how you doing? My view on H. Moser versus Laurent Ferrier. You know, I like them both. First of all, Four Doggy. I there is a bigger variety, I think, in H. Moser, especially with price. I think that Laurent Ferrier's now they're starting about 30,000 or somewhere in that neighborhood. H. Mosers aren't cheap, don't get me wrong. But as far as I don't know, it's really hard for me to say. I had my one experience trying on Laurent Ferrier. I felt they were too light. They didn't feel right. They didn't have the heft. And then somebody pointed out, says, "Well, you know, if you try them on with something other than I think it was titanium or some other light metal or a light version, that'd make a difference." I love the design of those watches of Laurent Ferrier. I think that if I could choose any watch I wanted, for me to want, it'd probably be one of the H. Mosers. So I couldn't afford either one, so it becomes moot, I guess. What do you think about the 5177 enamel dial and the 777Q movement? I have no idea what those numbers are, okay? I'm sure it's somebody who's hipper than I would know, but I just don't know. JGH, select the big second complication. There you go. Hey, Junior, how you doing? Yeah, tuna. I don't know why they can't do it. They could, if you have something at a much lower entry level, you don't have to spend as much on advertising, okay? Because there are a lot more people who want that than there are people who want these 20, 30, 40, $50,000 watches. And so they make a few and then they advertise them so that people will be interested in them. Why not make a bunch for regular watch collectors? Okay, why have the big brands moved away from central seconds? I don't know if they have. I'll tell you one reason, and also this is a reason that I like. They call them eccentric seconds. I like that too. Mine's down here. One of the things that on a one reason that some of them may have moved away from central seconds is the width. If you have to have more hands stacked on the central pinion with center seconds than you do with what are called eccentric seconds or subdial seconds. That could be one reason. I like them both. Trying to think. So there are reasons for it. One of the interesting things that they did, and I didn't know about, they did with our first two Larique watches, is that um, we were they put in this special gear called an Agonaise gear, and in the gear the teeth have these little springs between them, and so when they connect with something else, they're not as likely to slip. And what I found out was that the further from I think the main wheel train that your eccentric seconds are, or your small seconds, the further they are from the main wheel train, the more likely they are to slip. And this is why Jean-Marc Viderec invented the spring-loaded gearing that he has. He's got a what is that called? Hang on a second. Oh, I can't find it. Whatever you call it's got a patent on it. I'll put it that way. And so you don't have the slippage. However, on the other hand, you can make it thinner that way. So that's a good question. And I like center seconds too, because with center seconds, you got a clearer dial. I'm very big on clear dials, but I like small seconds too. Yeah, Dominic, I think you're right. Here's the thing though, Dominic, this is what they're also considering. We know from hard experience exactly what it costs to make a luxury watch. I mean, a really good luxury watch. And then we look at that price, and then we look at what they're charging. What they're really charging for are a number of things. They need a profit margin to stay in business. They also need a big discount for the retailers. They need an advertising and marketing budget. They need a warehousing budget. They spend a lot on packaging, huge amount on packaging. What we did for packaging was this. This is our packaging that Larique has. And like, you get one of those. I got these really fancy, gorgeous cases that came with some of my watches. You know where they are? I got them stacked in the back of an armoire under a bunch of armoire stuff. I never use them. Why spend a fortune on this big, beautiful case when you can get a really useful case for, I think that we spent about $100 a cases. They're leather cases, and they have them, and you can get them in different colors. And it's a Swiss company called Lucren, and they make them especially for watches, and they're great because you can also use it for a little travel case too. So I mean, these things all go into what you're paying is $50,000, and you get like this gorgeous case that comes with it that you could use for a fancy jewelry box if you wanted. I don't want to have to pay for that. Okay, 9/11, about that. Jaeger-LeCoultre is owned by their masters, Richemont. And I think that when Jaeger-LeCoultre came out with the geophysic line, which is my favorite models of not only of Jaeger-LeCoultre, but a lot of other companies, these wonderful watches they made with these great movements, they probably got the word from Richemont, says, well, they're not as selling as much as this other one. And so let's let's dump the geophysic line, except maybe save a couple that we can sort of put with some of the other categories that they have. So I think that's one thing that's a totally economic thing outside of what Jaeger-LeCoultre has. See, this is what happened with Breguet. I think the people at Breguet finally said, look, you're going to put out a watch called a Tradition based on Abraham Breguet, and you do it without a regulator, they're going to laugh at you. I will, ha ha ha. So that was why they did it, why they came back with these other ones, with that one-handed Breguet from the Breguet subscription watch. So now they came out with it. Well, okay, we'll put a Navicron. And the ironic thing was that the Navicron hairspring is really a good one since it was updated in 2019. It had been around, it had been used for like all kinds of things. There are other companies that make really good ones too. Rolex had its own Parachrome. H. Moser has the Straumann hairspring. The German watches have the Karl Haas. Okay. And so they acted like, oh, yeah, we're going to have a Tradition. Why don't you put quartz in it? AP Jewels versus Endeavor H. Moser. Again, Trustin, I like them both. I really like Endeavors because I have one. What became Endeavor, I guess. They had another name for them originally. It was a Benu and something. They had these stupid names originally. But Endeavor is a really great watch. It's sort of on the upscale group of H. Moser watches. So it's Audemars Piguet Jules Audemars, beautiful watches. I like those too. But I mean, price-wise, you probably do better with H. Moser if you get it in steel. I don't know if it's available in steel with Audemars Piguet. Audemars Piguet has really excellent, excellent, watches. They're just too expensive for me. Hi, Tim. How you doing? What's your opinion of Bremont? Oh, Bremont, Christopher Ward. Some years ago, I interviewed Nick English in New York. He's he and his brother were the ones who were running Bremont. And at that time, he was showing me some of the watches they had. They had a little boutique on I think it was on Madison Avenue. Beautiful watches that they had. And I asked him, when are you going to start doing your own movements? And they finally got around to it, I think. I think Bremont probably has some of the best cases anywhere. I mean, they have, I mean, especially for like a field watch or a real sports watch, they got these really well made, very tough cases. But they keep sticking ETAs in it. Christopher Ward, on the other hand, they become very difficult to. The thing I like about Christopher Ward is that they have gone to get their own movement. The SH21, I think, that they had done, I don't know why that all of a sudden you don't see it anymore, except for one model. That's all that Christopher Ward has. And then they came out with their new one, and it had a new movement to it. But I've heard a lot of complaints about it. And also, I think there's new management at Bremont. On both of them, I think they're wait and see for me. On the other hand, I wouldn't mind getting one of their older ones, like one of the ones with a Morgan badge on it. Yeah, I don't care if they put a Salida in there or what they put in there, just because I like Morgans. Bulgari has a nice hand-wound Roma Fenicio. Yeah, JGH, that's one of the ones. I think you can find some good buys on that too. I think that's a very good buy generally. Yeah, I don't know. 911, the 5177. Um, Hang on, let me. Um, Trying to find a. I can't find the 5177. It, they may not be making it anymore. Anyway, uh-oh. Um, Guys, I just noticed I'm running out of time. I better get going. Anyway, let me finish up some of these. I saw a Brigade 5177 without the date window other than the Ginza edition, which means that they made it recently. I would definitely pay for a no date. Yeah, I don't know. I tell you what, Dominic, we got That may be what we get for E2 is we just get the case. These other these fancy boxes they have is sort of crazy. Yeah, tuna. JLC seems to be overshadowed by the Reverso. I don't know. I think a lot of people know the Reverso and really like it, and I tell you the truth, I do too. Um, and they're good watches. The ones that I like a whole lot are the kind of ones like, and I think you got a point, is that the geophysic line, yeah, they're ignored. One of the ones, it all they have to do is give it a new dial, and that's the true second. The true second, my God, they got this incredible movement for the jumping seconds, and but then they got this sort of schoolroom clock type of dial on it. It's just the most nothing dial. I don't know, JGH. I got a feeling. I think there are more people like that who said, "Hey, come on, you guys, what are you doing?" Not especially with the tradition. And I think that also shows you who they're listening to. Are they listening to the watchmakers? Are they listening to the bean counters, or the quote communication guys, the hustlers? And I think they're listening too much to the hustlers and the bean counters than they are. You know, they've got to. They have to spend at least some time listening to people who, it's $50,000. I mean, that's an expensive car, I think. Cars are going up in price. It's insane. Moonard, that's right, Tustin. Thank you. Yeah, Dominic, I think you're right about that. Yeah, they're selling the bling and not the movement, not the insides. Anyway, guys, listen, I got to run now, but again, I sort of half apologize because I know that a lot of you are sick of hearing me, rant on about silicon hairsprings, but today was something that, hey, we got something here that's different. Um, 4 o'clock New York time this afternoon. Hope to see you guys again. And in the meantime, have a great day. Uh, Alex, it looks like we're in sort of for a cloudy day, cloudy and cold today. Get a good book. Take care.